Hi, I'm Dora. My Chinese name is Jiayi. I'm a second-year master thesis student majoring in second language education with a special focus on gender and women's studies. My supervisor is Pengfei Zhao, and my co-supervisors are Susan Ballinger and Mela Sakar before she retired. My thesis title is called The Bearable Lightness of Being an Enclave, Diasporic Chinese Women's Self-Directed Language Practices and the Dual Reconstruction of Language and Self. This project actually grew out of two questions I've been asking for long. First, what's the differences between our personal or private language use and the way we use to communicate with others? And further, what happens to our relationship with language when we move across borders? When I was little, I was on the autism spectrum. Most of my language use back then wasn't social. Basically, I only talk to myself, write things down, or invent my own words. Communication with others was something I needed to learn very slowly. But luckily, all my self-directed language practices, that is the SDL I kept mentioning in this research, played a big role in helping me build my own language system and build bridges with the outside world. I moved to Canada as an international student and as a Chinese woman immigrant. I also found myself move back and forth between home and host languages, cultures, and expectations. And again, it was my SDL, like talking to myself, writing private blogs in different languages, or writing my journals, helped me make sense of it all. I noticed how my SDL changed depending on where I was, who I was with, and how I felt in different environments. And all these subtle shifts started to influence how I saw myself, not just linguistically. Then I began to wonder, am I the only person who feels this way? Or is this something that other people also experience, especially those who are also living in between? So I started finding my research participants. Finally, I worked with 5 amazing Chinese women who are now living in Canada, the US, Japan, New Zealand, and Australia. I asked about how their SDL influenced the development of their whole linguistic repertoire, their emotional well-being, and the construction of their self-identity. We did pre- and post-interviews, and over 4 weeks, the participants kept reflective language journals based on 4 different weekly themes to record and reflect on their SDL behaviors. For some participants, they also shared with me some of their self-directed writing samples, like their poems, blog posts, or even just some little notes to themselves. First, I noticed how these women use their SDL to rebuild their linguistic repertoires. Like, they were not passively influenced by a new linguistic environment. Instead, they were making active decisions about what to keep, what to reject, and what to reinvent. Sometimes it means adding dialects into their English, and other times it's about rejecting certain internet slang. Over time, these practices are not about language learning and more about self-claiming. And all these participants, they were just building a new personal linguistic system from the inside out. Second, participants use different coping strategies in their SDL. For example, language choices. Most of the times they use their first language to express their emotion in their self-talk or journals. But in some other, certain occasions, I found something called emotional distance. That is, people may deliberately shift to their additional languages to narrate some traumatic memories or experiences. That is because an additional language can offer a healing distance to let them away from some emotionally charged memories or expressions that are usually tightly connected with their first language environments. Third, for language and identity, I found these women weren't picking sides between home and host. Belonging neither comes from sounding local, nor from showing loyalty to heritage. Through their SDL, I found these women sometimes question the inherited gender norms. Sometimes they rethink their relationships with Chineseness, and some of them even treat their SDL as a sacred space to explore or reclaim who they truly are. To talk about the study's contribution, let's return to some key terms in the title: the bearable lightness of being an enclave. So the lightness here means the instability and emptiness that often come with migration. But I think this emptiness is bearable, since SDL is a kind of meaning-making. It makes people stay present with the self and to connect their past and future self. And for the word enclave, I borrowed this notion from human geography, since it refers to a kind of diasporic situation. That is, being surrounded by a foreign world, but still somehow affiliated with where you came from. I believe my project can highlight diaspora's voices and affirms that their SDL practices as valuable, thus rejecting some neoliberal norms of language acquisition. Just as one of my participants said, she was surprised that there are some other people who share the same weird language habits with her, and there's someone who's studying them. And I hope this research can provide some empowerment for other immigrants. Living a life shaped by movement, I don't want to use the word rootless. I see these individuals as aquatic plants. They have roots, just not in the soil. They grow in water and they can drift wherever they choose. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions or if you want to talk with me, you can reach me through my email.